Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the LG Spirit, or what I would like to call it, the LG G4 Mini Lite. Why Lite? Because there will be a compact version of the G4 which has a bit higher specs. So where does this fit in? It is priced between low end to mid-range, but nothing about it is low end, and pretty much everything is at least mid-range. So let's take a look at it first and see what we've got. Compared to a 5.2 incher, you can see it is a lot shorter, also quite a bit more narrow, and therefore a little bit thicker, which isn't an issue for me personally. And you can see it has an ever so slight curve here. So what do I like about this design? I like that it is super compact, fits very well in the hand. I can access pretty much everything very easily. So one-hand use is no problem here at all. Also, the design itself is very elegant, quite minimal, not going on a lot on the front. Also on the back we have the back buttons, the volume rock and the power button. Nice clicky and tactile feedback, the flash, the camera. On the bottom we have the micro USB, a microphone. On the top we have the headphone jack and another microphone. Here we have the speaker that looks suspiciously like a Windows logo. But yeah, that's it. What I like about the back is the very consistent grippy feel, because moist hands or dry hands, it always was grippy. That I like a lot. What I don't like so much is that it is quite a little bit of a flimsy, as you can see here, plastic. It's not super awesomely built. Otherwise, here we have the micro SIM, micro SD card slot and the battery. So the back is the only minor weakness here, I would say, because sometimes you feel just the thing about it. You can't really press it down, but it makes the device feel a little bit less than it actually is. But don't get fooled by your first impression. It sits very well in the hand, and it feels a little bit almost too lightweight and flimsy, but it does a great job after all, and I really like the design a lot. So let's get into it and check the display. We have a 4.7 720p display. Therefore really sharp. For 4.7 you don't really need more than 720p. Everything was still quite sharp and nice. About the maximum brightness, I have to say though, not so happy. We are already at 100% and it is just about enough. In really sunny situations it can get a bit tight, but yeah. As for the whites, really nice white point, ever so slightly yellow, but just so much so you wouldn't call it bluish or coldish, and a lot of people, and I would say most of the people, will enjoy this white point a lot. As for the black levels, does a great job here as well. As you can see here, there doesn't really get lost anything. It can get okay deep, a little bit deeper could still be possible, but in this price range I don't really expect it, because maybe an AMOLED display can get deeper and some high-end displays, but for the price it's great. The colors look quite accurate, quite true to life, ever so slightly washed out at times. And if you are used to an AMOLED, it could seem a little bit pale for you, but actually you will get used to it quite easily and quite fast. As for the viewing angles, they are quite stable, as you can see here. Not really much to complain. Of course it is glossy, but I had no problems with it. Overall it was a really nice display, really nice to look at, quite a nice white point, what I like really a lot. So nothing to complain here, really happy overall. Let's check the sound now. We are at 100% loud. Okay. I hope it was noticeable. With normal use and even while blocking it and not pressing completely down, the sound quality didn't really diminish, and this is nice because of course we only have a backfiring speaker, which isn't the best position, but it doesn't sound quite off sounding like some other device, and it did a good job, because even though slightly blocked, the sound was still very nice. Maximum volume, very loud, quite a strong switch on here on this sound, on this speaker, and I was really pleasantly surprised. There was a hint of bass for a smartphone, way more than enough. The mids were solid and the highs were clean, maybe not super clean and ever so slightly harsh, but overall I have to say I was surprised how good the sound actually is for a backfiring speaker. And in this price range you can't really expect anything better, so totally fine here. So let's take a look at the performance now, and I'm happy with that as well. If we go into it, we have a CPU, MediaTek, which usually isn't known for its performance, but I was actually surprised how well it does. As you can see here in the Twitter app, everything's super smooth, everything nice. If we go into an RSS reader right now, it will have to load. Let's get into it. And yeah, as you can see here, the performance is fine. Totally smooth, no problems here at all. Let's go and check the browser. And I was also fine with the browser here at all. Once the page is loaded, everything is fine. It can be a little bit janky while loading, but this is pretty much the case on all devices. Now it's fully loaded, as you can see here. Super smooth, responsive, no problems here at all. Okay, maybe not the most snappy device, this for sure, because as you can see here, recent apps, yeah, they have to load. Due to only 1 GB of RAM, apps will have to reload quite often. And the multitasking just isn't the fastest one, as you can already see here. Yeah, sometimes it just takes a long while. And that's why I would say go into an app, go to the home screen and enter another app this way, because the recent apps panel was a little bit slow, not the best one. But I would say in terms of performance within the system, within apps, I was absolutely surprised and actually impressed, because for a MediaTek CPU, it was easily on Snapdragon 400 level, no problems here at all, smooth, consistently smooth, actually very consistently smooth, maybe not snappy, not super responsive, but still pretty much easily on Snapdragon 400 level. As for the games right now, yeah, this is where it falls a little bit short, because the Snapdragon 400 definitely is way smoother, as you can see here. It is just not super smooth, drops a lot of frames, and yeah, also quite a few slowdowns. So it is still playable, but here it is definitely not on a Snapdragon 400 level. It is still quite okay. So overall, I would say performance-wise within apps and games, easily Snapdragon 400 level. Everything smooth and consistent. Of course, multitasking was limited due to only 1 GB of RAM, so the app switching sometimes can be a bit janky, but once in an app, the experience is totally fine, no problems here at all. So let's get to the battery. 1 hour of charging gets you to 35%, 2 hours of charging gets you to 66%, and 3 hours and 10, 3 hours and 20, and you are fully charged. Maybe not the best outcome, but still fine. Therefore, the battery life is really, really nice. I got over the course of 18 to 20 hours, solid 4 hours of screen on time with a brightness of 75 or 80%, so quite high already. So if you go lower, you can get even more. But the good thing here is 4 hours of screen on time will easily get pretty much every average user through the day. And this is what this device is focused to. It is focused to the average user, and the average user isn't a power user who uses his device 4 or 5 hours a day. So this build should be good for every user over the course of one day. So if you want to game maybe for 2 days, still should be possible, because the standby day actually was quite okay, but don't have it too long on standby and not checking, because then one odd thing happened. The battery is just stuck for a while because it can't calculate it properly well. Because one time I had it 10 hours on standby and it didn't change the battery. It was still stuck on 34%, stuck for over half an hour, and then it dropped 15, 10, 5 and shut off. But if you turn it off once and again every time, it will calculate it properly, and this won't happen. But battery life, standby, everything is solid, no complaints here at all. As for the software, this is one thing where I'm super happy, and I made a dedicated video just about the software. So if you want to know a little bit more in depth about this software, just check my video with. But what I wanted to show off a few things that I really like. You can, if you want to, disable pretty much everything in the quick settings, just so you have the quick settings tiles here. But if you want to, you can also add the volume and brightness slider, and it still doesn't take up too much, because on some devices we know from LG it took up just way too much and was cluttered. But here I'm totally fine with that. What else is possible? This is really nice. We have Android 5.0.1. We have, if we go on to display, you can even change the font if you want to. Of course, also the font size and so on. But the great thing is the home buttons. You can change the order. You can add, for example, a notification drop down, also quick memo, but this wasn't so helpful for me. But what I also like, because I changed this button to this, because I actually feel this is easier to reach and more convenient. That's why I prefer it. Maybe not everyone's personal choice, but the great thing is you have the choice. Otherwise, you don't really get a lot. You have a few gestures, like as you can see here, and you have one hand operation, but there is not much going on. But that is actually the great thing, because all that is there is useful, like double tap to wake, double tap to sleep, double tap on the status bar to sleep. We also have this nice peak option here, which is a nice handy option. But like I said, all that is there is useful and was really used by me. And all that wasn't there, I didn't care, because I didn't want it anyways. So I think they did a great job. And that's why I did this dedicated video. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it. So check the video if you want to know a little bit more details about the software. But I'm absolutely pleased with the Lollipop version of this UI on the LG Spirit. As for the camera is totally fine in this price range for the amount of pixels you get. The pictures were quite sharp, got enough details, so don't expect too much. Of course, it is not super sharp, it is not super detailed, but in this price category, still maybe at least at above average. Color accuracy was quite nice. The white balance point was quite nice, because the colors that it did capture were quite true to life. Of course, the low light performance wasn't that great. It got a little bit blurry and so on, but that's to be expected. Video performance was solid enough, I would say. It was smooth, it did capture everything. Of course, it wasn't detailed and the depth of field wasn't really perfect, but quite okay. So you shouldn't really expect too much of this camera. It is maybe slightly less than the Moto G, but far better than the Moto E. So for the price, it does a totally fine job. And this brings me to the recap. Design and build quality, I absolutely love it. Just not so much the slightly flimsy feeling back, but the size is something I really learned to appreciate, because it's really nice to have a fully 100% one-hand use again. Also, it felt compact. Quite nice design, minimal, it looked quite nice. The back buttons were nice, really great job here. Display, for this price, really great. The only display that is close or slightly better is the Moto G. Slightly better white point, slightly better colors, but for this price, it does a totally fine job, and I never really had a problem with it. It is maybe not the brightest display, but I used it all the time at 75%, was good enough for me. Sharp, good details, quite nice white. So totally fine. Same as for the sound. Really loud, good tonal balance, no distortion at all, and that is great. So even though it's just backfiring, it did a more than just good job. Same as for the performance, actually way more than good enough. Within the apps, once loaded, very smooth, very consistent, no problems here at all, no slowdowns or so, no problems here at all. Multitasking, not so much. 1 GB of RAM just is the cap, the reason for that. And the gaming performance wasn't great, but since I don't game, I wouldn't have an issue with that. If you want to game, then check maybe the Snapdragon 400. Software, as I already said, I am super impressed by the software, because all that is there is useful, is handy, and is really an enhancement. And everything that isn't there, that isn't gaming anyways, isn't there. Absolutely great. Camera, solid in this price range. Don't expect any more, because I don't think anyone who wants to buy a mid-range phone like this with such a low budget price will expect a great camera experience. It will be comparable to the price, nothing more, nothing less. So would I recommend it? And here I will compare it with the Moto E and Moto G. Over the Moto E, I would take this any day of the time, because slightly bigger screen, better feel in hand, maybe not as substantial, but therefore just better, way better screen, way better camera, and pretty much on par performance. Compared to the Moto G though, it's your choice, because the screen with 4.7 is a little bit smaller. Maybe if you want at least 5, but if 4.7 to 5 inch is still your sweet spot, then I would prefer this. Why? Because for me, it personally just felt better in the hand. Yes, maybe not so substantial, but I like the backing material so much more. I like the double tap to wake, which I usually use more than buttons. Tap to sleep was also very nice. Performance was slightly more consistent once in the apps, which I like, so not as laggy. Therefore, the multitasking was a little bit slow and handicapped, but still, I would say in terms of in-app performance and in OS performance, a tie When it comes to games, then the Moto G has a slight advantage. When it comes to the battery, then this one wins over the 3G version. The LTE version is, I would say, pretty much on par. That's the higher capacity battery. But the 3G version has the slightly smaller battery, and here this one wins. So that's why I would prefer this one. It has a nice display, really solid battery life, good sound, great performance, great display, camera is okay. So yes, I would compare it with the Moto G, but prefer it actually. So that's it for the review of the LG Spirit. If you have anything else to say, leave it please in the comments, and please rate, comment and subscribe. Until next time, bye.